Yeah. MD. JPB. It's only right, baby.
Yeah. Why you mad? I got a bad bro. Name hot in these streets, no Tabasco. But I'm so stuck, that's a fact, yo. And if you think I'm frontin', you can run it back, yo. Go on, run it back. You know that I run it. Everything you wanna do, I already done it. And I got your little boo telling me she love me. I got this. Damn, it's gonna be a long night.
Hello guys, what is up? It is me, Prince of this, and I am back here with a new What If Asta Was a Player Part 1. And before we get into this, things are going to be a bit more different from solo leveling. I'm going to raise Asta's level a bit higher, but only a little bit. Like, you literally won't be able to like tell the difference. And, I'll explain things and why I'm doing things certain ways as I go on. And, yeah, also just want to let you know, this series is actually going to end. I know that technically no one can end Black Clover series because there's literally no way to find a way to end it. It wouldn't make sense if you tried to. But this What If is awesome because I can find a way to end that, and it will end when they all fight the demon. If you don't get my drift by now, then you really don't understand how I work, which is fine. But, for those of you who've guessed what I'm trying to do here, then you know this is gonna be fire when it ends, and it will end. So yeah, that's awesome. I don't know how many parts it will take, but it will end, and I hope you guys enjoy the journey. Now let's go. So we're gonna start the story off by talking about dungeons and magic. Magic was a natural occurrence, but dungeons came to the world in a weird fashion. Portals would just pop up made of magic, or dungeons would be formed in a certain landscape. Either way, these dungeons were full of dangerous monsters and beasts. And since the nobility didn't really want to waste their magic and magic knights, actually no. Since they didn't want to waste magic knights always took care of this until adventurers came into play. They would take care of the dungeons and monsters that popped out of them, and if an adventurer reached the rank of S, they may be considered for a noble title, but most adventurers never really reach that, so it almost never happens. From time to time, nobles themselves actually would become adventurers, and due to having more magic than commoners, this means that not only do they defeat monsters faster and get people safe, they also receive medals from the king and praise from the current wizard king, Julius Novarchrono. Now, as for Asta, his life will be a little bit more normal. He has a mother and a father, but his mother is very weak and actually inhabits a curse, not that he was ever told about it. This curse actually sapped magic out of people who came close to her, and this was the reason why Asta was born magicless. But his parents gave him like a lot of love, so that's good. His mother was named Lichita, and his father was named Hugh. Hugh was a C-rank adventurer and fended off monsters and fended for the family and provided for it. He was pretty strong. And that's where Asta learned like sword fighting from him, and also learned hand-to-hand combat. And Asta is still a very strong kid despite being so weak looking to adults. He's like really strong. Asta lived near an orphanage and was acquainted with all the kids there, and he became best friends with Yuno, a kid with wind magic. Asta was older than him about a year and was quite good at swordsmanship, like I said. And when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, again, like, he ain't losing to anyone below his age if they like don't have any experience. So yeah. Now one day when Yuno was 6, he was being hassled by a man who had stolen his pendant, and it was very important to him because that was what he was brought with to the orphanage. That's what he had. The only remain of what he's guessing is his family. And Yuno would fight for it, but the man would throw him to the ground as he was about to hit him with magic. "Not on my watch," yells Asta, as he then comes out of nowhere, punching and sending the man flying. As the man got up, he got a good look at Asta and recognized who his father was, and so he threw the pendant at him and ran away. Asta would then run over helping Yuno, as he then handed his pendant back. "Thanks, Asta," says Yuno. "How are you always jumping into trouble like that? You don't have magic." Asta would then smile, say, "My dad says that even without magic I'm super strong," and Yuno would say, "I really wish I had as much confidence as you do." Asta would then tap Yuno on the shoulder, saying, "Come on, you have amazing wind magic and you can actually use it. You'll get stronger and more confident." Yuno would then be cheered up as the two boys make a promise to grow strong and stay strong no matter what may come their way. However, when Asta turned 10, his father went missing. As the adventurer guild of the Clover Kingdom informed him of this, there was a closer adventurer sitting next to them. Asta and his mother were devastated, but knowing they couldn't last long without a provider, Asta actually took up two jobs, farming and adventuring. He helped the orphanage farm, and in turn they would give him some vegetables and, leftovers. As for adventuring, he could only take up E rank gates because the monsters and other dungeons were too powerful for him. Luckily, his dad had many supplies Asta could use, but it still did not matter as there was a clear gap between him and the monsters. Asta would go along with a higher ranked adventurer, some of them assholes, some of them nice, but he endured it all to keep his mother happy, because her being healthy wasn't exactly an option, so, Pretty soon, his friend Yuno would actually become an adventurer as well, and a genius adventurer that, as he would rise to C rank in just 2 months, which was pretty fast, and he kept fighting monsters, and his magic just kept getting stronger, as did his fighting skills. So he's not just a magic user, he's a combatant, but Asta still beats him in that category. However, he was scorned sometimes as well, just like Asta, because he was a commoner. We cut to Asta now in the dungeon, as he cuts a goblin in half and then sweep kicks one in front of him, stabbing it in the chest. You then come across a hobgoblin, which was a muscular, bigger creature, but Asta had a lot of muscle himself, so as the creature rushed at him with incredible speed, he dodged his bite at his shoulder just barely, as he then stabbed it in the back of its neck, making it scream. He would then desperately do this like a couple more times, and then he would then go after a few more monsters, and when he's done, the monsters and their blood on Asta would evaporate. Asta would then fall to the ground exhausted as he just looks around him, and there are shiny little blue orbs on the floor. I should be at home, celebrating my 14th birthday with my mom and dad. Damn it. Well, let's go back to the guild. He then puts the ores in the satchel and then leaves the E-rank dungeon. Now as Asta gets out of the dungeon, he's in an open field and it's night. He starts running back to the Clover city near, and coming up on the adventurer building, he enters it only to be stared at by a bunch of buff men and magicians. Some say hi being friendly and some just scoff or laugh at him. When he goes up to the counter, he meets the receptionist of the guild named Sebas, an old man who was actually a veteran adventurer of rank B. "Hello Asta, how much did you get today?" asked Sebas. "Oh, just the usual," says Asta. "By the way, did Yuno come by?" Sebas would then say yes, actually, he's already done for the day. Seems like he's ready to move up another rank. "Again, huh?" says Asta. Sebas would then take Asta's ores and give him some money, as he then encourages him, saying that things will get better, and Asta takes these words to heart, and he heads home. When he enters, he goes to his mom's bedroom and kneels down, holding her hand. Seems like she was a bit too weak and was sleeping today. "I will fix this, just give me a bit more time," thinks Asta. He would then get up and cook dinner for himself and his mom, and he woke her up and helped her eat. Then she went to sleep as Asta just headed out for the night. Since the disappearance of his father, he's been searching for him, going to places that his father has passed by before, and today he was walking around and he came close to a specific spot. It was a dangerous forest filled with animals infected by dungeon energy, and this made them rage out, and it was really dangerous to get near them. I have to do this. I can handle this. It's just a few bears. My dad taught me how to handle that. I can beat those easily. He would then take out his short sword, putting it in front of himself as he stays on guard, trying to not make a sound when he stepped forward. If there was even a chance his dad was caught here somehow, he wanted to find out. It's better than not knowing what happened to him. However, as he was walking around, he fell and had this overwhelming feeling of desperation being forced onto him. He would then soon open his eyes, finding himself in a dark castle. Well, a mix between a castle and a dungeon. Where am I? Did I just discover some new type of dungeon? I hope it's low rank or I'm dead. After he gets up, torches light up the area as he sees a huge statue in front of himself, and there's a bunch of metal knight effigies surrounding him. The ground was cracked and looked old and ancient. Instantly, this room then disappears as he looks to see in front of him what looks like his father dying at the hands of some monster. It was a terrifying thing to watch, but he couldn't move and had to watch it happen. Wondering why this was happening, he would be crying, begging to be out of this place, but he did not lose his mind, even though he was being driven insane. This scene actually goes on for hours, to the point where Asta can't count how long he's been here, watching his dad fight this beast for his life. But then it finally ended. And then he saw another tragedy, as he saw his mom laying in her bed, and he still couldn't move. He kept hearing her thoughts and anguish that she wished to no longer be part of this world, but she couldn't afford to leave her son behind. All these thoughts, not only could Asta hear them, but he could feel her sadness, her overwhelming anger at herself. And the same was the same for his father. And this will go on for God knows how long. And he found himself in the same room again, the cracked room, just scared as he had his blades out, looking around, scared as his eyes had dark circles under them and his eyes were completely red. Who is this? Who's doing this to me? Why? Haven't I suffered enough? His senses would then kick in as he narrowly dodges a blade strike from one of the effigies that had come to life, and trying to survive, he goes on and tries to kick it, but it doesn't work as his leg is actually in pain when he attacks. Another night then comes up, and Asta has no choice but to dodge and stay on the offensive. Maybe if I keep them away, I can get out of here eventually. However, he was wrong about this, as this would go on for so long that he no longer knew how long he was there for. He was dodging and punching and cutting, as pretty soon his blade actually broke and his leg got cut off. The pain was unbearable and he was crawling away from the knights, who then for some reason started walking slowly towards him, even though they could kill him right there. Then he realized it. These knights were having fun with this, belittling and chasing around a bug, which was him, but he couldn't accept this. He would crawl as much as he could, getting close to what looks like an altar in the middle of the room. He then tried to stand up using the altar, even though he only had one leg, and he ready for battle, putting his hands forward, not wanting to give up. I have a mother at home. She's all alone, and I'm the only thing she has left. I'm the only one she has left. There's no way. This is where my story ends. He would then feel this overwhelming presence as he looked up to see the smiling statue with the most maniacal look and blue glowing eyes. At this moment, he would then scream at the top of his lungs as he is then stabbed in the chest by a knight, and using all of his strength, he breaks the sword while also breaking his arm in the process, trying to rip it out. He would not stop screaming at the top of his lungs, fearing that if he stopped, he may lose consciousness and die. But then his eyes would feel heavy as he then only sees darkness. But then something pops up. You have met the qualifications. You have completed the quest, Fight of the Brave. Would you like to become a player? Asta was just barely hanging on and could barely see the screen. However, he then saw it ask if he wanted to live. Say yes to become a player, or you will die in 5, 4, 3, 2. Yes, I'll become a player. Asta would then lose consciousness and fade to black. He would then open his eyes as he yells, just finds himself in the hospital room. He thought he died and he was hallucinating at the end, but at this point, honestly, he didn't know what to believe. But first off, he notices his leg is back and he feels completely healthy, but something has changed, and in front of him he saw a weird screen. As he would look and check out the screen, a healing mage would then appear, telling him that he was good to go. Asta would then ask, sir, can you not see this? See what? Asked the mage. Asta was then confused and so disoriented that he just decided to forget about this. So the first thing he did was get out of bed and put on his all his clothes, and he thanks the mage, and he also asked how long he's been out for. The mage would tell him about 3 days, and he then asked where they found him. They say they found him near some orphanage passed out, and Asta would ask a bunch of other things, and honestly the answers make no sense, but he's just happy to be alive, and that's all that matters. So he steps out of the hospital to see Yuno, who was actually waiting for him, walking back and forth, because Yuno actually was the one who found him. Asta, what happened to you? Asked Yuno. Asta would then say, Yuno, it's fine, alright, I'm good. He then thinks, I'm guessing he can't see this either. He and Yuno would then go back to their homes, as Asta had to go home and check on his mom quickly. She was okay and she was just sleeping, but she also had tears running down her eyes. It's like a mother instinct. She thought that Asta wasn't coming back, but he did. So he stayed until he saw the screen pop up. He just stayed by his mom's side, and he saw the screen pop up showing him his stats. Strength 5, Agility 6, Sense 10, Vitality 5, Intelligence 0, HP 1000, MP 0, Job none, Name Asta, Level 1, Fatigue 0. Asta would then find this interesting, as it seems like his attributes seem to be numbered somehow, and then a quest would pop up on another screen at his side. This quest would then ask that he do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 10-kilometer run, 100 curls, and 100 squats. This was weird for him, but honestly he didn't mind training because it was the only thing that kept him going in this world. So he went out and did some of the muscle exercises, which took him about 2 hours, and then he did the 10-kilometer run, and it took him about 2 hours as well. When he was done, he was actually pretty good because this type of training was nothing to him. This is Asta we're talking about. This nigga does one-handed push-ups with ease. So yeah. But Asta only did this because he wanted to find out what would happen if he actually did the training. The quest screen would then change, saying that he had completed it just in time, and he received 3 things: 5 stat points, and a green key to a dungeon, and a status recovery spell. Asta would then accept the 5-point stats, and he adds them all to intelligence because, well, he's not a really dumb person, but he thinks that intelligence is a very good thing. He's been taught by his dad that being a good strategist is better than just having more strength and Asta had plenty of it. So as he added 5 stat points to intelligence, he actually got a rise in MP, and he felt suddenly empowered, and he was surrounded by a bright yellow light. Is this magic? I have magic? How does this even work? Something would then come to mind as Asta wonders if he can communicate with the system. Up to this point, it's been summoning up, like, just been coming up in his face, like a sort of it was responding to his instinct. So he asked the system some questions, like why his leg grew back, why adding points to intelligence grew his MP, all of that, and why did the system choose him, and what is the system for? And the system answered everything except what the system is actually for, as it only vaguely says that it's here to make Asta strong, which isn't exactly good because that sounds really suspicious. But he has magic now, so he's pretty freaking excited. So just by doing a few exercises, he's gained a ton of magic. Well, not a ton, but like magic at all. I mean, he was magicless, so this is pretty amazing. He would then marvel at the system, and then something new would pop up, which would be his inventory, and he reached into it, pulling out his broken short sword, and he asked the system about this as well. When the system explains it, Asta is amazed, and he goes home and puts in all the stuff that he has, like extra weapons, low-level recovery potions. Yes, those exist here, just, they're more mainstream in this world, and they actually stay in there, and he can actually pull things out. Now, concerning the key that he received, it says that it's only meant to open a dungeon in a certain place. So Asta quickly heads to where the system tells him to be, and using the key, he opens a portal. This portal will be in the middle of nowhere, and as Asta enters, he's walking down steps. This is at least a D-rank dungeon. Now that I have magic, I can actually feel this energy. It's overwhelming. How do people do this every day? I can't stop here. I can't. Now, heading downstairs, he takes out a sword from his inventory, and soon he finds a Steel Fang Rykon, which is just a red wolf with a metallic mouth, but they're really strong. This monster would then attack him, but Asta manages to dodge, which surprised him because he definitely felt like this beast was stronger than him. He then manages to cut the monster in half, leveling up as the system tells him so. So his stats get increased a bit, and when he sees this, he gets happy. But he wasn't done yet, as more wolves would come at him, and using his years of experience, Asta manages to beat all the beasts and switch between weapons so they don't break or anything. And soon, when he's done with the wolves, he sees that his stats have increased a lot, and he's gained 2 skills. He's gained the skill Sprint and Muscularity. He would then take a moment to understand how much stronger he gets every time he beats those wolves, and he finds out he gains 1 stat point for every stat when he levels up, just like when Jin does. So right now, he has 20 Strength, 21 Agility, Sense is 25, Vitality is 10, Intelligence is 11, HP is 1000, and his MP is 22. His job is still none, and his level is 5, and his fatigue is 3. Now, while taking a break, he also gets introduced to the store, and even though the monsters don't drop ores, their carcasses or teeth and stuff like that can be sold in the store, even though he can't buy anything yet. And actually, he gets the same currency in this world. Like, the store has the same currency as, well, anyone in this world uses. So he sells a fang from one of the wolves and gets 20 yules, which is pretty good because Asta at a minimum needs at least 1,000 yules to survive with his mom. But that's hard to earn, but with this system, things might get better, So from here on out, things would go like in Soul Leveling. Asta meets more wolves, and he earns the title Wolf Slayer, and as he destroys them, he gets stronger and stronger. And now that he has the title, he can apply it to his stats, and by the time the wolves stop coming, and Asta earns 34 fangs, 2 daggers, and traveler clothes that he puts in his inventory. This legitimately is a dream of any adventurer to have a spatial space to hold their stuff, and now Asta had one all to himself. Asta then gets more and more levels and then comes out of the dungeon a new man, a stronger man. By this point, he realized how he could gauge the strength of the monsters based on their color of their name, and he beat all different types, and he beat the Rasaka snake, or Rasaka snake, however you want to say it. And as he exits the dungeon, he would look at his clothes, noticing that they were torn. Just how long was I in there for? He would then check out his new items, which were Rasaka's Fang Dagger, and it was a C-rank weapon, which surprised Asta, and it gave him a lot of strength. It could also paralyze and make people bleed like crazy if they're cut by it, and he has an A-rank potion made from Rasaka's Venom, which will harden your skin, but weaken your muscles. Right now, this was his current stats. Strength 50, Agility 28, Sense 35, Vitality 27, Intelligence 27, HP 3030, MP 350, Job is still none, Level 20, and Fatigue 52. Alright, says Asta, I gotta go home. Just wait a bit more, Mom. I'm sure I'll get stronger and I can get the system to give me a high rank potion. So, time skip 1.5 years forward, and Asta has been getting stronger non-stop, just going to as many dungeons as possible, and with this, he increases his level all the way up to level 100. Yes, y'all know where I'm taking this shit, and he's still, like, getting stronger right now. However, instead of flaunting his power, he has it hidden, but he lets out a bit of magic with people thinking that he's a late bloomer of sorts, and they don't really give a damn though. The system then helps him hide his presence and his magic, but he cannot hide his devilish good looks as Asta turns into a completely different and completely new person. He looks as good as a noble and as tall, like legit, my man looks good, like what you see on the screen right now. Yuno would become a B rank adventurer with Asta staying at E, and Asta also had a shit ton of money by this point, like more than 1 billion yules in his freaking inventory, and he had a lot of free time, which is why he was able to level up so fast and so much. But it wasn't easy hiding his power, but he did what he had to do because he didn't want attention of nobles. Like, he really doesn't like nobles in this. So he soon found a potion for his mom, and her curse was gone, and he actually found out she had a freaking curse, and he had everything he needed. He did not care about fame, so he would do E-rank quests constantly and do all his, like, you know, the system quests in the background. However, little did he know, someone in the Clover Kingdom was actually onto him and knew he was hiding something. So soon came the day for the grimoire ceremony. Asta wakes up kissing his mom as he leaves while she was cooking breakfast. "Don't be late or this food is gonna get cold," yells Ichita. "I won't," says Asta, "just don't eat everything without me." Asta would then head out walking because he doesn't want to, you know, run too fast and reveal his power. He would then go to the orphanage and knock on the door. When Sister Lily opens and sees Asta, she blushes before coming to her senses because despite his appearance, Asta is still younger than her. Yuno then comes out greeting Asta as he and the rest of the orphanage, including the father, go to the grimoire tower. When Yuno and Asta enter this place, Yuno gets stares not because he's a commoner, but because he's a well-known adventurer called the Tempest. But some nobles are still jealous. But Asta was looked down upon, and Yuno noticed it. However, he looked back to see that Asta was actually indifferent to what they thought. Since that one day he came to the hospital, that's when things changed, but I can't figure out what. Asta would then be thinking, I wonder if I'm finally gonna get to upgrade Egress or Tank. They're nearing higher ranks, but they just need one last push. Everyone would then gather up as the elder of the tower starts the ceremony, and out of the shelves, the grimoires would just start floating down and going to their owners. Some small, some big, and there was then this green shine that filled the room, and everyone looked up to see a 4-leaf grimoire. As they wondered who was gonna get it, the grimoire would land in the hand of Yuno, who would then declare, "I'm gonna be the Wizard King." All the commoners would then cheer for him as the nobles think that he's being too arrogant. Wizard King? Since when? Thinks Asta. As Yuno made his declaration though, Asta would realize that there was no grimoire coming for him no matter how long he waited. So turning around, he started exiting the tower, and when some saw this, they started ridiculing him and laughing at him because his magic is so low that he couldn't get a grimoire. Asta did not care though and started walking back home, and pretty soon the ceremony would end and everyone started to leave. Yuno would be cornered by 2 nobles as he was heading home alone. "Hand over the grimoire," says one of the nobles. "Yeah, don't get cocky just because you can defeat a few monsters," says the other noble. Yuno would then raise his hand, not even using his grimoire. Do you know what the most interesting about monsters is? When they come across someone stronger, they run or submit. Seems like those monsters have more intelligence than you two. The nobles would then get mad, only to be sent flying into the forest by Yuno's wind magic. "Weakling," says Yuno. We then zoom in to see Asta as he was passing close to the orphanage, and he senses the little battle with ease. His eyes would then shine blue as he just smiles, but then he senses ominous magic, and Yuno's magic is actually being sapped. Activating Sprint, Asta lunges forward as he just runs to save Yuno. He arrives in 5 seconds to see Yuno being chained up and held down. He lands at where the fight is happening, with both Yuno and Revchi looking at Asta confused because they did not sense him arrive. "Asta, get out of here," yells Yuno. "This guy is out for blood." Revchi would then say, "Who the hell is this kid? I can barely sense your magic. What do you want?" Yuno at this point would be trying to break out of the chains desperately, but he can't, and Asta does not answer Revchi as he only starts walking closer and closer to him. And then Revchi launches chains at him using his magic to create snake heads to be like attached to them, and they're about to like bite Asta. As Yuno yells for Asta to dodge, he then sees the chains shatter as Revchi falls down in fear. "What's going on?" thinks Yuno. He would then be released as Revchi begs for Asta to let him live, and using the skill Bloodlust, Asta was intimidating Revchi with ease, like the dude was having a freaking panic attack. and because he was way below Asta's level. And using Vital Strike, he actually shattered the chains way too fast for anyone to see. Revchi would then say, please let me leave. I won't come back here. Here, you can take the grimoire. Asta would then take back Yuno's grimoire, throwing it to Yuno, who catches it, wondering what this pressure is that he's sensing from his childhood friend. So you're gonna let me go? Revchi would then see upside down as his head would be cut off, shocking Yuno, and Asta sees in front of him, enemy was killed, you have leveled up, do you accept the rewards? Asta would then think accept, as he would gain 10 experience points and a status recovery. Now he had 30 remaining points to use and 2 status recovery saved up. Asta would then think, these people really need to stop emanating so much bloodlust. Oh wait, Yuno's still here. He would then turn around to see a shocked and confused Yuno. He would then ask what's happening, but Asta jumps down to the forest, running away. As Asta ran away, Yuno was gonna chase him, but the guards would show up, assuming he killed Revchi, not even giving time Yuno to explain anything. Now, as for Asta, when he got back home, his food was cold, but he ate it anyway because it was delicious, and he had like one of the mages heated up for him. By the way, his mom knows about the shadow soldiers and everything. She knows everything, and she really likes them because they have a lot of personality. They're really nice and they help out. So he spends the entire day training after that, training his moves, and he goes to a low-ranked dungeon, and then he returns home at night. He usually goes to low-ranked dungeons to actually use his real skills, just easily beating the crap out of like little goblins, but he's actually using OP-ass skills. So after all of this is done, he goes to his room and he lays down as he opens up his character profile. It's been a while, hasn't it? I guess I've gotten a little stronger. Strength 232, agility 289, sense 200, intelligence 299, HP 60,000, MP 99,000, class demon monarch, name Asta, level 101, fatigue 0, physical damage reduction 50%. Asta would then have a faint smile as he went to sleep, and the next day came. Instead of working or training, Asta today was just kind of cutting wood, relaxing. It wasn't really much of work for him. He cut them like easily, and he would be wearing a normal shirt which showed off how much muscle definition he gained over the last year. And as he would be doing this though, he would sense 3 mages coming close to him. As the mages approached, his mom would actually sense them and come out as he puts his axes over his shoulders. Who are those people? Why are they here? Asked Lichita. Asta would then say, they might be nobles here to make fun of us or extort us. As the mages came close though, they turned out to be royal mages with robes covering their heads. And as Asta asked what they were doing here, they handed him a scroll. He would then take the scroll as the mages started walking away. Lichita would then grab the scroll, and she sees that it is sealed by a special mark, and this only scares her more, but she reads it, and the scroll says that a certain someone knows about Asta's secret and his true strength. Is this person talking about your shadow soldiers? They're really nice though, they help around the house. Why is this person threatening you, whoever they are? Asta would then grab the scroll, reading it himself, and it says at the bottom that if he doesn't want his secrets exposed, he should just sign up for the Magic Knights exam coming up. This would piss off Asta as he tells his mom this, but she's really excited for him because maybe it's time he finally shows the world how strong he is. Asta then thinks about it and only wants to go because he wants to see who this person is. And he says he'll go, but you know, he'll be leaving his shadow soldiers behind as guards for his mom. Maybe a few ogres. Then in the upcoming months, Yuno, who is suspicious of Asta, would try to get him to use the same power he used before, but Asta doesn't want to and just wants to train with Yuno and have fun because, you know, they're still friends. They're not like jealous of each other or anything. So they train with Asta just doing physical stuff and Yuno working on his magic. And Asta just kept doing, you know, more and more and more, you know, quests in the background, not letting Yuno know though. But Asta says that when they make it to the exams, he will show Yuno what he can really do. And this excites Yuno. Now, time skipped 6 months and Asta has to leave his adventurous city and go to the Clover Kingdom for the exam. This journey takes a while, but they make it there just in time, and as they arrive, they have a bit of time to spare, so they go around checking things out, and Asta uses the money in his inventory to buy him and Yuno a little something to eat. Then after eating, they line up, and when it's their turn, Yuno goes first, showing his grimoire, which impresses everyone and shocks them all. And when they hear what type of grimoire he has, it's pretty amazing. And Asta would then be up next, with Yuno being able to pass. But Asta has no grimoire, which makes everyone laugh. But the person checking everyone still lets him in because the pressure this kid is exuding on him right now is overwhelming, and no one else can sense it. So he just lets him in. Asta would then pass and enter the stadium thinking, this is why I hate Magic Knights. But that person has to be here somewhere. After everyone has entered, the first test, which is the magic birds, begins. Everyone would be impressed at Yuno since he has no birds flocking him or anything, flocking over him, and some are slowly starting to realize that he is the Tempest adventurer and, B rank adventurer. Asta also has no birds around him either, but it's not because of his magic, it's because he's exuding bloodlust. He's trying to hide his magic right now. But if those birds get close to him, he will cut them to freaking shreds. Everyone then wonders how this can be because they barely sense any magic from him and it's just weird. This means that unlike in the original, Asta doesn't bump into anyone, and then the next test would start as the Captain Vengeance from, the Golden Dawn takes over using his tree magic to create brooms that everyone can fly on. As everyone receives their broom, Vengeance then talks. We're going to start the first test. We, the 9 captains, will be watching over your progress, so in the end, it's up to us whether or not you get chosen, and those who aren't chosen will fail and leave. Now, the first test is to fly using those brooms. He would then explain how to do so as everyone would then try. Some fly, some don't, and some just are barely passing, but they're passing. As Asta activates his magic, the broom starts floating perfectly and he sits on it, floating up about 100 feet into the air. Him and Yuno are getting a lot of attention because this looks so easy for them and the captains are interested. Yuno then thinks, let's see what you're made of, Asta. The next test would then be up as it's a moving target test, and Asta points and he releases his daggers out of his inventory faster than anyone can see. This would pierce the moving targets in an instant as everyone wonders if he has wind magic or something like Yuno does. Yuno would do perfectly on this one as well, and then the next one up was him testing everyone's destructive power. As Asta looked at the stone target, using Dominator's Touch, he crushes it, shocking everyone once again. So, does he have gravity magic? Because that's pretty impressive. Whatever, I'm not going to lose, says Yuno. He then does this perfectly as well, with the next up being creating something, using your magic. As Yuno makes his creation, he waits wondering what Asta is going to do because his abilities don't seem fit for that. Asta would then be thinking, should I summon a soldier? It might get me investigated, plus I'm feeling someone's attention being directed at me. I'm a nobody, so there's no reason to care about me. I know it's not Yuno, or the captains. Screw it, I have to become a magic knight for me to actually chase this person down. Everyone would then feel ominous energy flow out of Asta as his shadow grows and out of it crawls out a shadow soldier. Everyone would then wonder what Asta freaking had. Does he have dark magic or freaking gravity magic? What the hell is this guy? And the captains are confused. That kid's skill sets are pretty bizarre. Does he have multiple magic elements, says Fuegoleon? That's impossible, he's a simple commoner, responds Nozel. Yami would then say, well, whoever this kid is, I want him on my squad. Asta would then pass the creation portion as he moves on to the final test. Vengeance would then ask for anyone to step up and challenge each other, and Yuno challenges Asta, who agrees. They then step out as everyone gets out of the way, making a circle around them. Begin, yells Vengeance. Yuno's grimoire will glow as he launches wind spears at Asta, who easily dodges them, and then Asta points just palm strikes at Yuno, who would then get pushed back a bit. As he gets pushed back, he then rushes at Asta, not wanting to give him time to use this weird gravity push. As he gets close in on Asta though, he enhances himself with wind, and thus is actually moving really freaking fast, making people believe that Asta was done for. But then as he extends his hand out trying to send Asta flying, his hand gets caught and Asta squeezes it. Yuno would then scream in pain as the magic captains are just kinda shocked. His magic gets cancelled and he's put down on a hold by Asta, who then asks him to give up. What is this guy? He just ignored the wind magic and grabbed him? He did everything so fast. Is he an adventurer? Wait, does that mean that he's been hiding his power? What is his magic? Yuno would then be trying to get up, but he feels this overwhelming bloodlust and says, I give up. Asta would then get off as Yuno also gets up, and they look at each other while Yuno kind of, gets the pain out of his wrist. Yuno isn't really mad though, because this proves that Asta never stopped getting stronger like they promised all those years ago, and that promise matters. The captains would then be surprised by the outcome, and then the next fights proceed. Soon, this part of the test would be over, and then came the selection as the young mages would line up, and they either get rejected or accepted. Most of them get rejected, and then, came Yuno's turn. All the captains raised their hands instantly for him, which was amazing, but Yuno of course went with the Golden Dawn. Then next up was Asta, and for a moment, all the captains got quiet as Fuegoleon would then get up asking, what is your magic, boy? I have gravity magic and some hand-to-hand combat skills, says Asta. Nami would then say, then what about that weird black creature you created out of your shadow? Wasn't that dark magic? No, that was a summon, says Asta. They helped me fight. They? How many of those things can you summon? I'd rather keep that a secret, says Asta, smirking. Yami would then smoke his cigarette, smirking as well, as he finds his kid pretty mysterious and interesting. He would then raise his hand for him, but no one else would, because they're certain that if Yuno had not underestimated Asta, he would have won. And they think that Asta must not be able to use his gravity magic all that well, and he kind of got the upper hand on Yuno because he surprised them, because everyone was surprised he was that strong. And if he's gonna hide his summons, then that's his fault, you know? After a few hours have passed, the others who have failed go home. Meanwhile, those who did pass are following the captains to their hideout, wherever they may be. Before that, though, Asta finds Yuno and says goodbye, and then he goes to find Yami and Finral. When he does, Yami says, "You sure took your sweet time, you little brat." He then grabs Asta by the head, trying to lift him, but he can't, and Asta does not seem affected by his pressure, and this only interests Yami more. Finral would then calm down Yami as he makes a portal, and the three walk through it, making it to the Black Bull's base. Asta looks at the building, his face sitting still, as he had seen more amazing things in the demon realm. But then the front door of the base would blow up as Asta looks inside to see his new rowdy teammates. Yami then welcomes into the Black Bulls, the misfits of the magic order. As they step in, Yami would then tell them all to stop destroying the place, while also destroying a piece of the freaking castle. And the rowdy teammates stop as they welcome Yami, and they gather around him. And this is when they actually notice Asta, with Veronica and Charmy blushing. "This little shrimp is our newcomer. Treat him well," says Yami. "Shrimp? He's taller than you," says Veronica, laughing. And Yami would then tell her to shut up, and she does. Asta would then introduce himself. "Hi, I'm Asta. Please take care of me." He would then bow, but then Magna steps up saying that Asta is not part of the group yet until he goes through something called a baptism. So they all go outside and gather around to see Asta and Magna face each other. As they do, they also tell Magna to take it easy. "Hey, new guy, if you can deflect all my attacks, I'll give you this robe." Asta would then say okay, as Magna uses his exploding fireball, launching one at Asta, who simply smacks it to the side using his hand. This is when the others get kind of interested in the baptism. Magna then makes his fire bat as he starts using scattershot, but Asta just keeps slapping all his shots to the side with ease. Then another one came at him, but this time Asta grabbed the attack, crushing it in his hand. "We done, senpai?" asked Asta. Magna would then take off his glasses, calling Asta amazing, and everyone agrees. The other Black Bulls then gather around him, welcoming him and asking him how he did what he did. Magna then hands him the robe, and Asta puts it on and thanks them all for welcoming him so well. And as he did this, though, we then see Noelle far away as she looks down upon all these commoners, and she calls them insects. So as Asta gets accepted, he'll be shown around, shown where his room is, and he would be shown around in general, He and Magna then find themselves in front of the beast cage, and Asta, being interested in the creatures, actually sticks his hand in the cage. Magna would then tell him to stop, but one of the beasts was already about to bite him. But as this beast does, Magna would then hear a whimper, with Asta pulling his arm out, and it is completely unscathed. Magna then checks up on one of the beasts, only to see that one of them had actually broken their teeth. "Dude, what are you made of?" asked Magna. Asta would then say, "What do you mean? I'm just stronger than it is." Magna would then go to ask him more questions about what his magic is and what kind of training he does. And as he asked this, they both hear footsteps and look back to see a girl with silver hair, and she looked really beautiful. "Oh, so this is where you were. Asta, this is your teammate." Asta would then try to shake her hand, but she smacks his hand to the side, saying that she is a royal lineage and he has no right to touch her. "Okay, that's fine," says Asta. "Senpai, want to show me around a bit more?" Magna would then say, "Honestly, I look way younger than you. I wonder if I'm even fit for you to call me that." The two would then be having like a little bro moment, as Asta says that he's still strong, it's fine. And then they would get ready to leave when Noelle yells, "Stop! Greet me the right way, commoner." Asta would then ignore her, as would Magna, and she gets mad, shooting a water ball at them. However, Asta would quickly dodge, bringing Magna to the side, only to realize that the attack actually curved and missed anyway. As Magna turned around, wondering why she fired an attack, she had thrown her robe on the ground and left. This pissed off Magna, because he cares a lot about the spirit of the team, and Asta would ask, what the hell's up with her? So the rest of the day would pass as Asta does his workout quest, and then he'd go to sleep. When he wakes up, he dresses up and goes outside, but before he goes to visit his mom like he intended, he's outside just walking, about to teleport, and he feels magic being used. He sees Noelle practicing. He gets closer to see how she's doing, and when she spots him, when she spots him getting closer, this makes her lose her shit as she creates a giant water ball, or like a prison, holding her in place and up in the sky. Asta would then look up wondering why she freaked out, and this is when the other Black Bulls come out with Yami asking what the hell is going on. I walked up to her, says Asta, and that happened. We need to calm her down, and this is gonna get ugly. Yeah, all up to you, kid, says Yami. You were here first. Fun, says Asta, as he would then squat down, launching into the air at incredible speed, and he just spears through the giant water ball, only using strength, and he comes out on top with Noelle in his hands, and using Dominator's touch, he squeezes and bursts the ball of water with ease. Then he starts to fall as Finral helps him land safely using a portal. Asta then lands, and everyone will be impressed at his strength, and then Noelle starts to wake up. When she comes to, though, like, she realizes that Asta is holding her in his arms and starts blushing as would any other women. You know what? I'm actually going to draw Asta as a player. Just give me a few days. I'm actually going to care this time, okay? I will do a good job. So everyone, she's expecting everyone to make fun of her, of course, because that complex she has with her family and that trauma. But then, as she closes her eyes back up in fear, Asta would say, look, I don't know what that was, but you're really powerful. You just need to work on controlling your emotions. Everyone then agrees, as Asta would let her down, and they actually compliment her, which is surprising. And she starts to cry a bit. Asta would then say, alright, now that this is solved, I have to leave. I'll leave you with the summon that can help you whatever you want. Noelle then turns around and sees Asta being consumed by shadows as he falls into the ground, disappearing, and a shadow soldier pops up, bowing to the Black Bulls. What the? He can teleport? Says Noelle. Luck would then think, now I really want to fight him. Meanwhile, Asta would arrive home and spend time with his mom for a while, and since it's been so long, he also tells the orphanage that Yuno and him are doing fine. Now, time skip a few days later, and Asta will walk through the front door wearing a cape. Man, that dungeon was awesome. Now I'm what, level 110? Maybe one day I can finally see that statue again. Now, as he comes back, he sees no one, but senses them all eating in the dining room they're eating, and he heads there as the others ask him where he's been when he arrives. He says he was just training, and Charmy then kind of coddled him, like, you know, telling him to sit down, and she gave him the most food out of everyone else. Hey, just because he looks handsome, you're giving him more, yells Magna. Asta would then point at himself, confused, as he would ask Magna if he was talking to him. Do you even look at yourself in the mirror? Asked Magna. You look like a noble. Asta would actually be surprised to hear this, because usually when he approaches girls, they run away looking sick with their faces turning red. But ever since he reached level 100, he's been starting to sense emotions, so soon he might know why people act the way they do in his presence. Now, as they're eating, Yami and Finral would come back practically naked, as Yami had said he lost a bet. So now Noelle, Magna, and Asta have to go to Sashi village and hunt boars. Hearing that they had to do this, Noelle was a bit pissed, while Asta was fine because he just came from a life-threatening dungeon, so he wants to relax. So they end up going anyway, and they all ride Magna's crazy cyclone, and having Asta be behind her, so close up to her, was making Noelle nervous the entire time. Soon they land by Sashi village and start hunting. As a boar rushes at Asta, he kicks it in the snout, lightly knocking it out, and then another one jumps at him from behind, with Asta slapping it as he makes it pass out. Magna and Noelle, who see this, would be impressed, as they wonder if he's using gravity magic or just using his pure strength. Hey Asta, are you using magic to beat the boars? Asked Magna. Asta would then tilt his head. They're just boars, why would I do that? As he says this, his eye would then kind of flare blue as Asta rushes past his teammates, and they try to follow behind him, asking him why he's running. But the two can't keep up at all, and while they keep running after Asta, they soon are stopped by just a wall of mist, and it is made of magic. So this is why he ran. The mist would then disappear as Noelle and Magna's jaws drop. What the heck? Yells Noelle. We then see what they see, and blood-red ogres are holding down a few mages, and Asta is holding up the leader of the mages by the neck. He would then turn around saying, "Took you long enough, come help me out." "Help you with what?" asked Magna. "The cleanup," says Asta. Now that Asta is in possession of this weird and mysterious system, how will things unfold? Why does he have the title of the Demon Monarch? And will his true strength be found out soon? I guess you're gonna have to find out in the next part, because this is where I'm leaving it off. Welcome to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you didn't mind the background noise, because there was actually a lot of it at the end. But if you didn't mind that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share this with anybody else who might like what is. The Discord server is always down below, so go there, join the Discord, have some fun, talk, give me ideas, and that's about it. I'm going to be posting What If Deku is a Speedster next once again, and also I'll be adding a little like goal to this. If you guys can get this out to about 500 likes in 3 days, I would appreciate that. It's not to continue the series, but if you don't, I might not. So yeah, that's the end. Stay safe, and goodbye.